Hello, everyone. My name is Madhura Kumar. As Kate introduced me earlier, I am a product manager at Juniper Security, and I'm thrilled to be here to talk to you about Security Director Cloud, which is the SASE portal for Juniper's connected security strategy. I also will have with me Sandeep Rajan, who is our technical marketing engineer. He will follow me with a demo to show you that all the things we're talking about are real. Right? Okay, so with that, I want to start with really some of the things that has been going on for a while. So I won't kind of spend too much time on the drivers for transformation itself, because this is something that everyone is very much aware of, right? So there is an increased adoption of cloud-first strategy among organizations. And pretty much every business I talk to is in some stage of this journey. And there's been an increase in remote workforce in pretty much any vertical, any organization you talk to at every level. And this is not just COVID related. We were already in some ways in this journey of increased hybrid or remote work culture. But that has only been amplified because of the current world we live in. And if you look at SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, one of the things you'll notice is that at its core, what it breaks down to is that evolution from that traditional heavy branch model to a cloud-centric thin branch SASE model, which goes from thin branch plus heavy cloud, right? It goes from a heavy branch to thin branch plus heavy cloud. And if you look at this particular model, what you will see is that most organizations, or I would actually wager to say every organization is at some stage, right? Is in some stage in this movement from that heavy branch to the new model of thin branch plus heavy cloud. So let's start at the baseline of this, right? So at the baseline, I would wager to say that what it boils down to from every organization's fundamental or basic need is about providing any device, any access in a secure fashion. So it all comes down to that, ensuring that your employees, contractors, users, whoever is at that sort of endpoint of access, coming in with any device, now has a secure way of accessing the different assets that you have for them to use as a service or to just, do their day-to-day job. And all of the layers on top, be it a security as a service kind of use cases, all of these require that policy management, threat intelligence, threat protection, enforcement, and all that. But at the end of the day, the key thing is a secure enterprise edge. And for that, the fundamental thing and the table stakes is really how effective is your security, effectiveness of security against threats, right? So you can talk any use case, you can bring in any technology, but at the end of the day, to have a secure enterprise edge, the most important thing is how effective you are against threats. And that's how Juniper thinks about when it comes to security, and not just as a strategy, but the idea of building products for us comes from the mindset of how effective can we be against threats. And when you look at the SASE model itself, right? So we talked about the secure edge as the core starting point. And we talked about how you're looking at use cases which span private cloud access to SaaS applications, public cloud, public internet. So all of these are destinations, right? You have the starting point of access, and then you have the destination that these users are accessing. So the in between is where you get Juniper Security and Network Management Cloud. All of the use cases, all of the different technology points, products come in this particular portal, which is our SASE portal, which Sandeep will get into in a bit. But the idea for us is, how do we enforce zero trust network access and enable that secure enterprise access to all of the key assets through our SASE portal? And to reinforce kind of what I said, all of this done with I would say some of the highest industry rating when it comes to security efficacy. And this is not just us saying it, be it ICSA Labs, NetSec, any of these different certifying or certification sort of vendors. What you will see is that Juniper scores really high in any of the security effectiveness tests that have been in place. And it shows that our thinking is that your use case, especially in the arena of security, is only as strong as your actual security effectiveness. Without that, no matter what kind of controls you put in place, no matter what kind of enforcement sort of options you talk about, or flexibility, scalability, all of these things are essentially hinging on one thing, and the one thing is how effective are you at security. So that's how we think about it. That's how we build our products. And that kind of takes me to how we think about Security Director Cloud. All of the things I've talked about are very conceptual, but Security Director Cloud really makes it real. It's it's Juniper's the SASE portal, right? The idea of it is to really manage security anywhere and essentially ensure that it spans everywhere, right? On-premise to the cloud. And it's all about how do you transition to the cloud at your own pace. So we recognize that organizations, right, when it comes down to it in a practical way, it's not digital transformation or moving to the cloud doesn't mean that it's a binary thing that everyone's there today or going there tomorrow, right? What it is that you transition at your own pace based on your own needs. And that is why Security Director Cloud is all about transitioning to the cloud at your own pace in a secure manner. With that, I'm going to add this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me. Can you define SASE for me? What is it to Juniper? Because it means everything to everybody and their uncle. So could you please give me what Juniper's definition of SASE is, please?
Absolutely. For us, it's really about securing I would say the access itself. So if you think about SASE, and that's what I was trying to boil it down to, right? You have different use cases, different products, and different, I would say, combinations that come together to serve a particular use case. But at the end of the day, what does it really serve? It's essentially ensuring that you are securing your access as your starting point, because whatever technology you put on top, at the end of the day, what you want to make sure is that your users have a secure access going into different assets, whatever is in the cloud and your own on-premise, and they have the right set of controls and they have the right set of privilege and whatever is required for them. So for us, SASE, if you think about it, boils down to any device, any access done in a secure fashion.
So you're saying secure access in a secure fashion. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to ask it, what do you mean by secure access? I see so many ways that happens. How is that happening for you?
I would say that, so if there are many ways, as you said, you can define secure access, you can go the technology route, but I would say there are a couple of things, right? Ensuring the right user in the right context has access to the right assets. By that, identity comes into place. It also brings in the effectiveness against security threats, because you're making sure that the context of adaptive risk applies to that particular user. And it's also about what kind of privilege do they have? Are we kind of making sure that if they're an employee versus a contractor, they are still accessing the right assets. It's also about ensuring that if they are, say, compromised or something like that, I can take the right required, required kind of ways of ensuring that there is no lateral proliferation of that. They're not compromising other assets in the network. So to me, it really is about, I can throw technologies on top of that to address it in different ways. But at the end of the day, it's really ensuring that the right user is accessing the right things at the right time. And that's constantly being monitored, and we are constantly adapting and applying our risk thresholds to dictate our policies.
But wouldn't it also be user and device? So it's the right user on the right device?
Absolutely. when I say user, I do mean it as any point which is accessing, which is also device. And Juniper really looks at it as IoT centric as well as actually user. So I defined it as a user, but it's any point.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Sandeep, do you want to take over the demo, please?
Cool, thank you. Thanks, Madhura. So what we're going to see is we are going to see some of the feature functionality of Security Director Cloud. As Madhura mentioned, that is the SASE Model for Juniper. And what I'm going to take you through is the experience of the customer onboarding and device onboarding. And then we will see with a simple topology how Security Director Cloud is actually able to create a consistent unified policy across devices on-premises and on the cloud, virtual and physical firewall. And then we will get into some of the monitoring capabilities of Security Director Cloud and showcase you how effectively a SOC analyst a practitioner can actually see what's happening in their network. So with that, let's get started. And as a first-time user to any of the SaaS service, the first thing you will do is to create your own account. The link over there, which tells you to create an organization account. Once you click on that, we'll be asking you some minimal set of information. First thing we'll be asking you is the email address, followed by the password. And then once you provide the CAPTCHA, in the next screen, we'll be asking you a few details, contact details like your name, the company from where you are, and the country you are residing. And finally, we'll be asking you a contact number. Once you put that in the next screen, what we're going to ask is a unique organization account name, which is going to be tied back to your email address. So once you provide your organizational account name here, we will be tying that to the email address that you have provided, and this will trigger a verification email. And once you verify successfally, you should be able to log into this particular cloud instance. And when I say the cloud instance, this is an agile microservices-based agile platform, which means we'll be churning out capabilities on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. Once you are into the cloud instance, obviously your next logical step would be to get the devices on board, your firewalls onboarded. So let me take you through the device onboarding. Since now we have created a customer account and you are in this instance, you go here and then add the device. There are multiple ways to add the device. When I say add the device, it's actually onboarding. We call it as onboarding the firewall. You have CDP being one of the prominent way. Here I'm having a device which is having a serial number, which is like factory defaulted configuration. All you need to provide is a serial number for that device and the root password that you want to set on the device. With that, what happens is every SRX, whether it be physical, virtual, or containerized, it will be having a certificate loaded with that. And what we are making sure is the right device is contacting the right cloud instance. You can see there is a CTP job being triggered, which is actually doing all this verification that the serial number has been purchased and the right device is actually contacting the right cloud. With that, you can see that discovery in progress, and in few minutes you can see it is slowly discovering the OS version, the platform, and the details and the inventory about the device, and you can see the devices are up and in sync. With that, now you have the device to be managed, but let me also show you in the next slide, next few seconds, on an interesting onboarding wherein you don't need to touch the CLI at all. All you have to do is you log into the on-box logging solution. We call it as JWeb. Once you log into the on-box logging solution with the UI, here I'm actually logging into one of the virtual SRX. Once you do that, please note the host name of the virtual SRX here. You can see at the very top there is an option called Add this device to Juniper Security Cloud. Once you click on that, what happens is we will be prompting you to get the username and password for those users who has actually created a account in Security Director Cloud. Once you key in your email address and the password, what we're doing right now is we are fetching all the organization that you have created in the first flow, and then you can select on which particular organization you want device to be. Again, what we do from here on is we do a certificate-based authentication to make sure that the right device is actually contacting the right cloud instance. And here you can see the message being shown up there telling that this device is being managed by Security Director Cloud. To make sure it's actually managed properly, I'm logging in with the same user and password to the cloud instance and going to that same organization account. Under devices, you can see that same device virtual firewall cloud is actually being onboarded, right? Now we will move to the next part of the demo, which is firewall policy management. I'm having a physical SRX, which is hostname Sunnyvale DC, and we are having something called AWS vSRX, which is in AWS. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how Security Director Cloud can have both of these devices under one single policy. So here I'm having the SRX 4600, who's having hostname Sunnyvale DC, and in AWS I'm having another vSRX, which is called AWS vSRX running. What I'm going to do now is I will show you that both of these devices are already onboarded with a couple of ways. One of this way, whatever way which I have shown you. Both of these devices are here applied with a trial subscription, and the connection and configurations are all synced. Let's have a look at the firewall policy and see how the policy look like. So here I am having, you can see both of these devices are part of one single policy. What that means is all the 4 rules or more rules which I'm going to add will be enforced with one single click on both the devices. It doesn't matter whether it's in AWS or whether it is in physically in other location. What I want to bring your attention here in this is how we have condensed the information in such a way that it is the most important thing are shown to the user upfront. For example, when you click on the source, all source related information like addresses, zones are listed. For the destination, we are actually showing all the URL categories, zones, and addresses. Again, why URL category? Because we are having the unified policy, which is having a capability to look at the URLs in the URLs in the packet to decide whether you should permit or deny the traffic. Moving on the application, we have put it separately because we have seen the application is something that customers need a granular control. On the second rule, what I have added is I'm having a specific subnet, and I decided all the UX specific group, I'm going to allow access to Adobe. So I have group as UX, I have a specific subnet, and destination I have put as any. And you can see in the application, I have specified Adobe as application. What that means is now the UX group will be only able to access Adobe if the packet is actually trying to access Adobe. A user from the UX group is trying to access Adobe, he will be allowed to access.
Sandeep,
sure.
I have a question. How are you identifying the Adobe application?
So we are having the app ID engine, which is in the SRX. So the app ID, which is actually installed on the SRX, will be able to identify whether the application is actually Adobe or something else. And I'm having in a moment, I'm going to show you the granularity of those signatures that we are having in SRX.
Okay, as applications evolve and change their traffic profile and protocols, how often does that, I assume it's some sort of database or list of signatures, how often does that get updated?
So we constantly, I think Kate was actually touching upon the threat labs, which we are having a team which is actually constantly updating the signatures that we are actually having. And I am not exactly sure on, I think it's on a bi-weekly basis, we actually kind of update the signatures that we are actually having. But it is a constant updation that we actually always have. And how Security Director Cloud helps is whenever there is a latest version, we will be updating right into this portal, and the users can actually go ahead and then update that latest signature.
And of course, my last question and then the natural transition to this is, how do I create custom applications? Maybe my organization has an internal custom application that we want to identify.
Great question. In this demo, I haven't covered it, but we are having a complete separate section where you can actually use any of the regular expressions, and you can actually clone a specific signature of application, and then you can build your own specific custom application. Absolutely, that's supported.
Yep, and I think my last one, again, another short one, is are we able to see how you're matching on the existing applications? Am I able to see the signature or the rule content of how you're actually matching on Adobe?
Few of the signatures that, again, a few of the signature actually, we actually show you what is the regular expression that actually we are actually matching, but not all, because some of the way we actually identify the application, for example, Skype and stuff like that, there is some heuristics involved, which we won't be able to completely show you how we are actually matching on the application. But by and large, for example, if it's a Nutella, it's a very simple regular expression for you to understand that. But wherever possible, we actually showcase that.
And just to jump in here too, Tony, those are great questions. We also, our application signature team, so as Sandeep mentioned, they do updates on a biweekly basis. The same with our IPS signature team, by the way. We do create custom application signatures for custom applications for customers. We do that actually all the time. So if you are wanting to identify an application that's custom to you, and you don't really want to do it yourself, and you don't want to engage professional services, which they absolutely can do, and they do for a lot of our customers who have a lot of custom applications, you could submit a request and our team can take care of that for you.
Sorry, just to clarify there, you're saying that's a no charge to the customer event that you can have for, I'm presuming, some limited amount of capacity.
That's correct.
Awesome. Can I ask a separate question on the management piece? So once you put your device into the security director cloud, and I'm sorry to interrupt your role here for just a second, do you cover, or can you maybe briefly talk about at some point how that changes, if at all, the management of the device on premise, if you wanted to get into it directly, or if you lost cloud access? And again, if you covered that elsewhere, just tell me to be quiet.
Oh, no, that's a great question. So that's again coming back to what Madhura was actually talking about, right? So the beauty of this is we are not telling the customer to shut down everything on the day when we actually migrate to the cloud. If you're having an on-premises management, which is actually managing your firewall, you can still use that. And what Security Director Cloud can do is any changes that has been done on the firewall, it will automatically sync those changes directly to the Security Director Cloud. So it's up to the pace of the customer when he wanted to move to the SASE platform, which is the Security Director Cloud. He can still use that on-premises management system as and when he is actually comfortable, and then he can slowly move on to the cloud. Till that time, we will be doing all the synchronization automatically.
Thank you.
Question about the onboarding. You described the zero-touch part, and I want to know in what sense this is the ZTP, because you have to configure something in your device to connect to your cloud, right?
Absolutely. So let me take a step back there, and great question again. So what happens is when you are having so this is how it happens, right? A box of SRX comes to your premises, you take out the box, you boot it, which is a factory default configuration. First and last interface of all the SRX, which is capable of doing CTP, is having DHCP enabled. What that means is the moment you plug in that firewall to your network, you have a DHCP server, which is actually getting you the IP addresses. The moment you get that IP address, one thing we have to make sure is that firewall is able to reach the cloud, which anyway you will be doing, because your intention is to onboard it to Security Director Cloud. That's all it needs. Now, as I already mentioned, the firewall, which is actually shipped, is already having a certificate installed on it. And to your question specifically, Rati, what we are having as part of the default configuration is there is a specific server wherein we key in all this information loaded with certificate, so that when the firewall reaches to that specific server, this server, which is an intermediate proxy server, knows to which cloud instance this has to redirect. That is a specific part or specific server which actually making sure the right firewall is going to the right cloud instance. Hope that I answered that question.
Okay, yeah, as I understood, the firewall comes with a pre-configured server or the host name that it can reach to the cloud. And then my second question is that what if let's say in the brains that I don't have the internet access, direct internet access, and I need to onboard the device through my on-prem equipment, and do you have let's say the on-prem ZTP server?
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that question also come actually. So you have seen the onboarding scenario where I used JWeb, which is on-box logging solution for onboarding process. We are going to have, again, this is currently running the EAP. So we are going to have the same function. We are having the same function in the on-premises as well. Now, the scenario which you talked about, your SRX doesn't have direct access to your internet, but your SRX is actually managed by our on-premise management system. Now, this on-premise management system, if it has the internet access, then this will be doing the onboarding activity for you. The similar way where you have seen the JWeb doing the onboarding, the security director on-premise has the capability to do the same onboarding process. So your SRX didn't need to have direct reach to the internet, but your on-premises management system can do that. Make sense?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. So while you're describing to me as a firewall management tool, how does this become more than that? Does traffic go through the security director cloud so that from my end user computing device, it goes through it to, and then enforced to the on-prem SRX or the cloud SRX? Is something happening here that I'm not seeing?
So Ed, actually, there is, and we will be showing you that during the next security field day. But what we wanted to do with any new architecture is start with management, right? Because we know that customers are not going to be moving their entire infrastructure to a cloud delivered model overnight. They're still going to have a lot of on-premises and cloud-based firewalling that they want to do, security. And so that's why we started with Security Director Cloud, because we wanted to cover our bases. We wanted to start where the customer is and transition with them as they make that journey. So the next security field day, you will see there's more to this. There's a lot more to this.
So I do have a question about this. Why are you using the root password for my firewall? I would never give that out. I don't want anybody to use it. You need a special user that has the rights to get to the Security Director Cloud, is what
absolutely. No, I get your question. Totally agree with you. So that is only in the ZTP workflow, Ed, right? So when I say ZTP, that means there is no configuration set on that box at all. There is no users configured at all. So if you want to set the root password for that device, because right now the root password is also not set. If you want to set that root password, that is where you actually provide that. To your question, any changes that is done on the firewall is not by the root user. There is a custom user, we name it as SD user, and that is a user who will be actually making any changes to the SRX from Security Director Cloud. It's not the root user, but you need to set the root password because you are booting up the device for the very first time when it's in the ZTP process. I hope I answered the question.
That should not be required. Root passwords are something that should never be shared in well, let's just put it this way. Access to them means I have access to everything. I would recommend finding a different approach.
Yeah, again, the changes that is being done, I don't know whether I communicated that properly. The changes that is being done from SD Cloud is not by the root user. It is done by a specific custom user who is actually having access to specific nodes of the firewalls.
But it's there. Is it stored anywhere?
No, it's actually stored in Security Director Cloud instance itself, and we are having
the root password is?
No, not root password. I'm talking about the SD use password. Root password is not saved anywhere.
So Security Director Cloud, I'm assuming it is globally hosted, since it's a cloud infrastructure. It's still on someone else's computer. I know early in the sign up you chose a country. Does that affect where the instance for a tenant, you could say, or a company is stored at? I say this in context of like data residency when I think of like the analytics portions to it. So is this the case, or are we stuck in a certain AWS region?
So we are actually rolling out on not blowing up everywhere, but we are actually rolling out very controlled manner. But all this data privacy thing, which we are actually talking about, when that will be absolutely taken care. And this is, we are already having our cloud delivered solutions already. This is Security Director Cloud is not the first one, right? So all those privacies that are required that is needed for specific region will be completely met, and that's the reason we are actually putting it on a controlled manner. But that will be supreme importance for us, and we will be making sure that privacy is actually and the compliance is actually met as and when we roll out to specific regions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Sandeep, I just had a quick question about the enrollment process. So it sounds like there's a proxy version and there's a direct connect version of this as well. You mentioned that the devices will get an IP address via DHCP. Is there the ability to configure DHCP or something like Pixie Boot to, whenever a new device comes into my environment, that when it gets plugged into the network, the enrollment process and all of that is fully automated?
Right. So when I say DHCP, right, what I mean by ZTP, literally don't touching the box, right? So you take the box out, you plug in. That's why SRX is loaded with a DHCP client on first and last interfaces. So you just plug into the network and you get the IP address. But if you are having specific way of assigning an IP address, there is no problem in that. Only requirement is that your SRX, either with DHCP or you specify your IP address statically, one or the other way, your device should be able to access the internet. But the softest way to get this is you plug into your DHCP local to your network and get the IP address, and then it reaches the internet. But to your question, yes, you can assign the IP address in either ways, and as long as your SRX is making sure that it's actually able to reach the internet to a specific port, you should be good to onboard the device.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I quite explained that. The assigning an IP address, I assume that works, but once that occurs, does the SRX automatically connect to the cloud service and enroll itself?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think
okay.
I may need to get a little more under the hood of how it's actually working. So how it actually works is there is a client which is actually comes by default on this SRX, and that client actually reaches out to the specific server which I talked about, which is a proxy server. So every time it tries to reach, and then it expects a response from that, and at the same time that we do a certificate-based authentication as well. But to your question, yes, it reaches out whenever you get an IP address. Yes.
The serial number needs to be configured on the cloud side, right, to identify the device.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And is it possible to automate that part to push the serial numbers that is purchased from the Juniper itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, so we are having the APIs to do in any and all of whatever workflow which I showed and I'm going to show. So absolutely possible with an API. So I was at the advanced service and I was showing the set of profiles that comes by default. You can customize it, or you can actually use a specific profile by creating your own UTM and SSL and so on and so forth. Once you right click on the rule base, you get a lot of other options. One of the thing is clone. I'm actually using a clone options here, wherein I clone a specific rule, and you can see that complete rule structure gets copied. What I'm intending to do is I want to block FB for the user group UX. So here again, this is where I think one of the questions that came on the signature granularity. What I'm going to show is I want to block Facebook, and I want to bring your attention to the signatures that we are actually having, right? The granularity of the signature that we are having, not only Facebook access and apps, but individual actions within that Facebook, for example, uploading or sharing or specific games which is played within Facebook, which actually means that we are having a control on not only the accessing a specific application, but anything that is happening within that application we can control with the signature set. And here I have decided to deny. Now what this means is UX group is not allowed to do a Facebook access, but at the same time, they will be able to do the Adobe. Now, I'm pushing this configuration.
Sandeep, yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt. The question is, a lot of that isn't access based, right? As far as like initial session communication between a client and a server. A lot of that happens sort of after that has happened in the payload of the protocol, in the payload of the transmission of the packets. So the only way you're able to see that sort of stuff is if you're doing some sort of SSL inspection or break and inspect. I would have to assume that that's what you're demoing here when you talk about all of those Facebook signatures for the particular actions within Facebook. The only way you would natively be able to see that is if you broke that SSL or that TLS encryption. So is that what you're implying here? Is that's what's happening?
Yeah. So there are certain apps where you need to do SSL decryption. I totally agree with you. For those apps, we need SSL decryption. Yes, you need to have an SSL profile attached to it. But for all other apps where we can identify a few of the things with heuristics, we can always have that apps running there. And what we are actually having is we are having a policy called, I forgot the exact name of that, but basically what it does is it holds the access until we actually kind of identify the application that's been running in the network. So, but if there is an SSL encrypted, yes, we need to attach a SSL profile to it.
Thanks, Andeep. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So now here I push all those 5 rules on both the AWS SRX, VSRX, and the physical SRX, which is on the on-premises, right? What I'm doing here is I'm logging into that SRX 4600, which was called as an DC host name, and then making sure all those rules are being enforced properly or not. So I go ahead here under security policy, and under, you can see there are 4 rules from trust to untrust, and exactly those rules that has been pushed from the security director cloud is being enforced here. Now we will get into the monitoring capabilities. First, I will start with the dashboard. Again, we show the information based on, we show different widgets based on the information what we want to show. For example, it makes sense to show you in a map view all the threat maps that's happening in the network versus a bar chart or, a donut or a line graph or a bubble chart for applications, IP addresses, etc. We can have the capability, we have the capability of having multiple tabs. Why, how, and where it helps is, for example, in this case, I have a different tab to show you the network-related traffic. For example, the top source IP address, top destinations, etc. Versus on the other end, you see what are the events occurring in your network. You get a fair understanding of how your network traffic is versus your, the events happening in the network. You can pull down the widgets from the top panel, and it gets populated almost in the real time. But we understand all this information in the dashboard are very high level, 30,000 feet information. As a practitioner, you would like to know this, but you would also like to know the details about what's happening in the network at the packet level. That's why we are having a more detailed link on each of those widgets. And you can see I'm actually right now going to jump or going to click that more detailed link from a widget, which is IP top destination. And which
Sandeep, yeah. I have a question regarding the dashboard. So do I have to click the widget, or can I go to one destination IP to drill down?
I couldn't quite capture that. Can you please come again, Christian?
Do I have to click the widget for more details, or can I click one of the destination IPs to drill down information?
So here from the widgets, what we are having is the more detail, but you can always go to the next window. Give me a second where I am moving there. From the widgets, you have to click on the more details, but you can always come directly here in the monitoring login. This is a page where you can directly come in, and then from here you can group in all your destination source IP address, pretty much anything, everything in the syslog and in the packet you can do directly here.
Okay, but I cannot go to a specific item to get more information on this. Is it linked between each other? Like, I don't know where it goes concretely, or what users are.
Yeah, so how you can do is, you can see here again from the widgets, as I told you, we are only having one specific link, which is actually more details, and depending on what type of widgets you are coming, we group based on that. For example, right now you can see it's actually grouped on destination IP address, because I jumped from a widget which is for destination IP address, and from here you can see all those things, all those IP address are actually grouped based on the destination IP address, and from here we can drill down to you can have I think I'm actually going to show you in a while, wherein you can drill down to specific users or destination port and stuff like that. For example, at the top there is a filter button which is going to come in a moment. Once you click that, you have pretty much any field you want, and for your specific question, if it is actually users, you can filter down on the users as well. Does that clarify the question, or
maybe I will see what I want to see later. It's not exactly what I wanted to ask.
Okay.
But maybe I will see that later. I just be patient.
Sure. And if I don't address, please let me know. We can go over.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How much of this is on the SRX? How much of this is in the cloud? I mean, the management part I get. That's all in the cloud, and you just push profiles down to your SRXs. So your SRX has to have TLS termination, et cetera. But why, I mean, what's in the cloud that makes this different than any other firewall management tool that I've ever seen?
So there are few things here, right? So one is the again, coming all along where I'm going to show you the applications and threats and stuff like that. What we are actually doing is the analytics part, right? Once we get the information of the traffic that's actually running in the network, we do an analytics, and then we also do we are also having an automation capability of blocking a specific traffic which is actually happening in the network. Also, we are having the correlation and then showing you what are the events happening in your network. So
the AV virus detected MT that you have there, that is from the analytics.
So the antivirus that we are actually getting, this information we are actually getting from the firewall, and then there are some actions that we can do based on this information. For example, if you want to create a role which is not covered in this specific demo, but if you want to create a specific rule or make any changes to the rule, we can do it right from this. And I'm going to cover a little more on those stuff in a few seconds.
Thank you.
And let me know if I don't address that as well. Okay. So moving on, this is where you can actually create a filter, save the filter, and then you can actually load the filter at later point in time. Here, again, drilling, what I have done now is all the destination IPs I have found, I'm drilling further on a specific port on this specific destination IP address. And pretty much anything you can create a filter, and you can create a report as well out of it. So coming on to how to load this filter that I have saved, you can use that filter button, and you have a bunch of predefined filters as well. You can see down there where the filter which I created called port 80, but at the same time you have the filter which is been predefined. We can load that as well. Best part of this is not saving and loading, but best part is you can create a report out of each of this, which is handy for any of the SOC analysts wherever he want to generate a report based on any of these filter criteria. Moving more on sessions and the logging part, and hopefully I address Kristen's question here. If not, we can come back. We can drill down on specific sessions. We can drill down on the threats. For example, we are having a summary view on the threats, telling you what are the critical threats, what are the high and medium, versus the detailed view tells you the details about each of these threads. Web filtering, coming on to web filtering, we can actually see what all are the allowed filters, allowed URLs, and versus what are the blocked. In the detail view, you get the details about what are the blocked filters, and the details about each of the URL that has been accessed in your network. All security events is a consolidated view of all the events happening in your network. Again, we have color coded that for an easy representation, and in the detail view, you get the details about each of these events. And once you click on that glass, you get more details in a formatted way so that you can read easily. Now here is where Edward, if I don't address your question in this, please come back here. So I hope it gets answered here. What you're seeing here is, and here from threat maps and applications and users, what we have in the threat map is a live threats that's happening in a network, which has been segregated as IPS, virus, spam, etc. We have the top destination countries, top source countries, and here is where it is more responsive, right? So you ask where we are bringing value from the management side. You can click on specific thing. For example, in this case, it's United States. I clicked and I wanted to know what are the threats that is actually happening in your network. You see the inbound activities, you see the outbound activities. Once you click on more details, you see specifically on IP, where in United States, what are the threats happening in the network. Once you click on that link, which shows you the number of events, it takes you back to this threat view, detailed view, wherein we will be able to debug more from that specific threats. Again, what we are actually having, we are going to incorporate is, if you want to block that specific IP address or block the traffic that is incoming and outgoing of United States, we are going to have an automation facility as well, which what management system does is it identifies the right firewall that can actually block that traffic in the network. Similarly, in the application view, right? So we get all the list of applications. What we are actually having is a bubble chart, and there are various benefits of having a bubble chart. Just by looking at this bubble chart, you get to know what is the application that's consuming most bandwidth, what is the critical application that's actually running in your network. For example, in this case, we clearly know now that BitTorrent is the application that is being consumed the most in the network versus other traffic. We can have this in a heat map view. We can have this in the bubble chart as well. We can put specific time and also decide on specific devices to filter out. Once you hover over that specific application, now it tells the details about the application. For example, what is the session that has been consumed in the network by this application? What are the top 5 users? How many bandwidth that has been consumed by him. In the grid view, we get again more detail about the specific of the application. It tells you who is actually accessing, what is being consumed the bandwidth, consuming the bandwidth. Now here again, what we are going to incorporate is, what if you want to, most probably none of the enterprise would be appreciating to have BitTorrent in their network. What if you want to block that? We are having the automation capability, which actually once you click on that button, it is going to identify the right firewall that can actually block this, and then it automatically places that rule by creating the BitTorrent as an application to block it completely from your traffic, completely from your network, wherein the automation capability within the management system comes and plays a role. Similarly, for the users, we have a bubble chart as well as the grid view, which actually shows you the details of the application that is being consumed by a specific user in the network. I think with that, my demo is over. Just making sure, Edward, did I answer your question? Or
could you comment real quickly on if there are any hurdles or challenges around IPv6, or if you're a full IPv6 native shop and making all this go?
You mean for the management? The firewall management IPv6, or is it on the monitoring specific side you're asking?
All the above. Yeah.
No. There is no specific restriction. In fact, we already have the IPv6 support on the management side or for the on-premises, which will be there in the cloud aspect as well. And as far as the monitoring is concerned, the management system is really capable of doing IPv4 versus v6. There isn't any limitations as such.